Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
Some more politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheer scenes.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching. You should post that for some of the people.
Yeah, just really show it off. Nah.
People like torture.
They do. That is true. They do like torture. Anyway, this is Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Hello.
We are in week 1.5. When was the inauguration? Was that on the 21st? 20th?
20th.
20th? It was Wednesday or was it Thursday?
20th. 20th?
We could look it up, but per standard arrangement, we're not going to do that much research. So we are.
I don't have gloves like Bernie.
Yes.
In the moon,
Yes.
but this is my best Bernie sweater.
Wait, that is a solid Bernie sweater. Thus far, what my favorite Bernie meme thus far is the or at least of that meme is the one where he's just sitting on the construction, like, there's the one with all the guys eating lunch on like the skyscraper.
Lunch on a skyscraper.
There's just one of him sitting there. That's been my favorite thus far.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. I've seen a couple ones that I love. There's in the punk rock community. He is very beloved.
Beloved. Yeah, I could see him being beloved in the punk rock community.
Yeah. So, we should share our favorites. I'll share.
Oh, you mean like share? Oh,
yeah, share.
Okay.
Like social media, like we are relevant.
We're supposed to be doing.
Like to make Laura happy.
Yeah. Bernie meme. Let's see. Oh, you mean like eventually?
No. Yeah, like I want to do that. Like we'll do that tomorrow. Like, hey, here's Friendly Argument's favorite Bernie memes.
Bernie meme. Oh, somebody got a tattoo of that already.
I'm a little jealous.
So my favorite, this is our first tangent of the evening, but that's okay because we'll make a 15-minute version, and so this won't be included. My favorite Bernie thing ever, and I can't remember if this was in Portland. No, I think it was in downtown Los Angeles for a little while. Was my brothers were here, and we were just walking down the street. We look over, and there's just this painting of like Bernie's glasses just from a street. And so like as you walk by, it like just kind of watches you. And I was like, oh, that's the most Big Brother thing ever. And then my little brother like chirped up and said, you mean the most Big Bernie thing ever? And I was like, yes.
Boom.
Yes.
Sick Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie.
Because socialism leads to 1984.
Yeah, there's definitely like in the zeitgeist a lot of belief that socialism equals dictatorship, but they're
can you say one
separate...
I think the more accurate way is that socialism leads to dictatorship, not so much that it equals dictatorship.
Yeah, it doesn't, but
which name one that hasn't.
China, current
China is a dictatorship.
It's not.
Yeah, it is. It's a dictatorship of one party. Their dictatorship just moves, like changes hands every 10 years.
You could call that a plutocracy, which we have. So, but if it's, you know what I mean, that's not a dictatorship. There's different degrees there.
I think, as you were fond of saying, that's a definition without what is your phrase? It's definition without
difference
distinction.
without a distinction.
Yeah, difference without a distinction.
Well, the prominent ones, Russia definitely had a dictatorship, and
I would say still does.
Yeah, I mean, I would sadly, I think it's degraded even further. It's like a mafia rule.
Yeah, but I mean, Putin just got basically elected for life.
Right.
Like recently.
I'm saying it's one step. Russia has created a step worse than a dictatorship.
Okay.
So I'm not
Ruled by
giving him
mafia.
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, run by mafia, which is even sadder. So hopefully Navalny, hats off to him, man. He's doing some brave stuff over there.
That's the dissident guy who got arrested when he went back to Russia?
Yeah, after being
50-50, he's dead.
I mean, he's got a lot of support. There's been some really, really big, a groundswell of opposition to Putin.
Yeah, but I mean, there's groundswell opposition to him every like 5 years. Like I feel like this isn't the first guy who's done that. I mean, maybe this time it'll be different, but
yeah, I mean, the hope springs eternal. I'm a Cubs fan, right? So it's gonna always be there. But I would love to see a better leadership structure there.
That would be nice. What was I gonna? Jack Ma. That was the other one I was gonna mention. He apparently got disappeared, so that's exciting.
Yeah, he showed up. He showed up recently, but yeah,
did he show up? Okay, so he's still alive.
a very tight-lipped public statement.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but I know what you're saying. He was not seen for a little bit. Sorry, that means something different. I should say he was not seen for a little bit.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to see that Jack Ma has returned to, has been seen again. That makes me happy.
I think America is a great idea that in practice hasn't been as great as its ideals. I think very similar things apply to socialism, communism, the way that it's used.
Yeah, I mean, I can get on board with some of that. I just think that the starting premises are false, so you'll always end up in a poor position.
Well, this will be interesting. What do you see as the starting premise of communism?
The starting premise of communism, like as defined by Karl Marx?
As defined by J. Andrew Bernard.
As defined by J. Andrew Bernard, communism is the control of who owns your labor is the government, not yourself.
Yeah.
It is your labor is owned by the community.
Yeah. So very Marx.
Yeah.
So the idea that sprung from was that predates it by a long way is Native American tribes. Nobody gets seconds until everybody gets firsts, and you could get your hand chopped off if you tried to take seconds before everybody got firsts. So that's the original. And in the
Native American
level, everybody can agree with that.
Yeah, but I would still point out that I believe it was still within the Native American traditions, and saying the Native American traditions, like we tend to lump them all together where they're like different cultures. But in that, my understanding of that broad swath is if you kill the thing, you get the heart. Everybody's going to eat from the thing, but you get the special thing, which is still a capitalistic idea. It's like, yeah, maybe you don't get second. No one else gets seconds because it's a tribal thing, but you're still getting rewards for your labor. You still own your labor, even if the whole thing is coming out. And even
you get the choices cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and even you're providing a service, you get a reward for it. And even then, like I think the thing that. By
the way, audience, our topic is Biden's
executive orders. We'll get to them. You're
just trying to avoid your P90 or not P90.
Court of force. It's Beachbody. It's all the same people.
Same people.
They're like, it's basically the instructor is one of the instructors is just a younger version of Tony Horton. He makes very similar jokes and he like very similar facial structure.
They're just
carbon out over there. It's like, Tony Horton's too old now. We just got to find the next one. Communism works really well in very small groups, like in very small very, very small communities. It can work very well for a limited period of time. Like the best examples of them are the Jewish.
Yeah.
I can't it's not Kismet because that's a different thing, but
And
the
I
little
know
farm
it's the Hasidic
collectives.
Jews, but I know, yeah.
Yeah, like, and those worked really, really well. But even the people within them were like, this was a
And it's
temporary thing.
I
So
don't
what?
know. I don't know enough about the Jewish culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's more of an Israeli thing than it is really a Jewish thing. But anyway, those worked very, very well. But even the people within them were like, we're working towards getting away from this. So it is a concept that works well in small groups, particularly over limited times, but as applied to a general society, generally does not tend to work, because at the end of the day, people will not work if they as hard if they don't own their own labor. Plus, then the question, if you have communal control over, if the community owns your labor, who controls how resources are divided? Like, it's very easy to slip into one person or very few people having the power.
Yeah, it's not alone in that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not. But I mean, you can argue that capitalism does the same thing, but then I would point to it that capitalism is the owning of is at its core that you own your labor and you are allowed to freely trade it. Once you get into corporatism or crony capitalism, as some people call it, then that's when you start having a problem. But
yeah, and I think we probably, the common ground on this would be, I would definitely propose the picking and choosing of the best parts of both of them, sort of like they're tools in the tool belt, and you use them where they're appropriate.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's the public utility argument that most people agree. Like, there are some things that are better done as communal than they are as private industries, like water and power being the best examples. But overall, as the main de facto way of things, not generally good. Anywho,
okay. No common ground on that one, but
no common ground. There was some. I agree. I buy into the public utility argument, but it's then what becomes a public utility and what's not a public utility.
Well, yeah, just you case by case. You use the right tool for the right job. You don't man with a hammer it.
Yeah. Well, and I guess probably where we actually disagree on that is like which one's the right one, but we're really supposed to be talking about Biden's executive orders.
We are.
Yeah. So I don't remember how we got onto communism aside from socialism equals dictatorship.
Yeah, I think
that was a tangent of something.
Bernie memes.
Bernie memes. Ah, yes, Bernie memes.
Yeah.
I can respect Bernie because he's very much he believes what he's selling.
Oh yeah.
I just think what he's selling is a load of crock.
Sure.
Anywho,
I stand on your record on that for sure.
Yeah.
I love Bernie. Love Bernie.
He's a very interesting old coot. If he weren't a senator, I would find him very charming.
Yeah. His memes are definitely charming, and
yes, he is very memeable.
Anyway, so another old kook, Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need a segue.
Untangented. So this is probably one of those areas, and I think this might be tangential to what we're actually trying to go through today, since we're trying to go through his executive orders, is that when we talked about Trump in the past, I'm always like, I'm more interested in what he does than what he says. So Biden's inaugural speech was very much like, let's come together, unity, rah, rah, rah. It's not going to be as bad as you guys are all scared it's going to be. Which, on that note, I don't think it will be as bad as I was scared as it was going to be, solely because the filibuster is not going to go away. So that died because 2 Democratic senators said, "Hey, we're not going to get rid of the filibuster." So, like Puerto Rico and Puerto Rico and DC becoming states is very unlikely to happen. What was the other big thing? There's like 2 or 3 big things that probably can't happen. So we'll just get a bunch of bad policy now. I thought you were gonna have a comment on that. No. Okay.
It froze.
hmm? Oh yeah. So I
It
was
froze for a second.
gotcha. So untangenting from that, I guess I just get my barb in. Ha! Victory. Untangenting for that, I with Biden again, I'm more concerned about what he does than what he says. So with the inauguration of this, like, let's unify, I am now skeptical of it because he just signed a crap ton of executive orders in the last week, some of which I don't think. I think I unplugged my fancy dancy microphone. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Some of which I think will be kind of neutral to maybe good, and a lot of which I think are very controversial and very much not in the spirit of being unifying so much as unity equals, if you disagree with me, shut up and obey.
That doesn't sound like Trump at all. Go
No.
ahead.
Well, he just, I would say it doesn't sound like Trump in that, like, he's like, everybody hates me, everybody's being in the media is being mean to me. But he didn't, like, do you have an example
It's like
where
he
he
didn't
was
know he
like,
was
shut
playing a
up and obey?
contact sport when he decided to go into politics.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that
It's
is
like
true.
Trump didn't know. Yeah.
Well, that would be, I would say you would have an argument. I would say you would have an argument against that, except for, like, every media outlet's been carrying Joe Biden's water for the last week. Like, no one's talking about what he's been doing and the controversy of them. They've been more interested in his chocolate chip ice cream preference.
I think that there is less legitimacy in the beliefs that they are terribly controversial. But that's why we're here to discuss them.
Well, okay. So, I mean, that right there, I think, shows you part of the problem, because there's 75 million people who, like, agreed with Trump and what Trump wanted and would in the conservative movement. But if you're saying that there's less legitimacy, if half the country, like, you just blazing, like, in a very blasé manner, dismiss the beliefs of half the country.
How legitimate is their logic and critical thinking process?
Just as legitimate as yours.
The beauty of the logic and critical thinking is that it is an objective. It's outside of the person.
Granted.
And so it's not about this person holds one beliefs, this person holds these beliefs, A versus B. So one person believes this way, another person believes that way, draw. No, that's not the case. That's why they have it. That's why during debate or forensics or whatever they call it, it's judged. And you compare and you weight based on logic and critical thinking, the strength of the two sides. And you can objectively there's always humans involved, so nothing is ever perfect, but there is a objective criteria in which to judge these things.
That's fair, but if you can't, you can get to completely different places with objective and logical thinking if you start at different premises. And the problem that what I'm hearing you say is that everybody else doesn't have legitimacy because they're not starting from the same premises that I am.
I think it's the judgment. It's how are they coming to their decisions? Well, so because if you believe that there was a stolen election with zero evidence, I don't think that's a terribly legitimate. I wouldn't put my flag in that.
But that's Jeremy, that's one issue, and that's a fact. That's a fact issue. That's not a policy issue. That's not a whether this is controversial, like whether an action is controversial or not issue. And what
I'm just giving a single example. I mean, we could talk about those examples. I have 4 years of backlog of those examples.
Okay, yeah. So give some more examples.
But I think we want to get to the executive order.
Well, but
I
Jeremy,
was just giving one.
it's hard for me to go to the executive orders because it feels, and I don't think this is your intention.
Let's use an executive order as a means.
Okay, well, let me finish my statement and then we can move on.
There's
But
a delay.
so it's hard for me to move on to that because it feels like we're not even going into it in a good faith argument. Because what I'm saying is these are controversial things, right? But what you're then saying is like if you come to these are not being reported on because they're not controversial because of logical and critical thinking. I don't think that's what you mean to be saying.
Well,
but that's what you're saying.
It was speaking to the 75 million that you referenced, and I don't think that all of them are thoughtful conservatives.
I don't think I don't think a lot of people are thoughtful liberals. But what's that have to do with the price of tea in China? What I'm saying is these things are not getting reported as controversial when they're objectively controversial because half of the country disagrees on them.
They would be objectively controversial if they don't hold up to logic and critical thinking. The amount of people, 0% or 100%, makes no difference. But the amount of people makes no difference.
But what I'm saying, and maybe I'm not saying this well, is that I don't think your argument holds up because it falls apart the moment that you start from a different premise. Like the means can be fine, but if you start from different places, you're going to get to different objectives. I
didn't bring in different places.
But what I'm saying is like, but I'm saying your argument, I don't think your argument holds water because you can do exactly what you're saying and come to different places objectively. Like you can't say that there is, like, I believe there is there is only truth, but how we see truth like will be slightly different.
Yeah, but a stronger argument is going to be across enough educated people will be educated in logic and critical thinking. This isn't a classist thing. If you have that, which you can teach in elementary school, the better ideas that hold the most weight, that can stand up to the most scrutiny, move on. And that is what you hope for the democracy. And that's what I hope for our democracy. And if it's not, I go back to the analogy just because or the example because it's the one that we've been talking about, but the stop the steal. If you are pushing that forward, or if you're tolerating that idea, we don't need to give equal time to the Flatlanders. That's what it is. There's just an abundance of evidence to the contrary. And so, yes, we can differ in opinion for sure. And those are the real things that we should be debating, Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal, and make the union better by figuring out those things, because those are real things. But I could list off several of the conspiracy theories and things that are being pushed out there that might have a lot of people listening, but they don't hold up to logic and critical thinking. So that's why I think that you are a thoughtful conservative. I think you're a thoughtful person. And so I think that you bringing forth these issues, there might be some there to use your term, but I don't think that just based on the number of people, going back to that 75 million, that makes zero difference to me as far as how strong the argument is. I
guess that's not the strength of the argument.
Maybe I'm missing what you're saying.
So the strength, I think, so we may have gotten off my original point, was that the problem that I'm seeing is Biden saying one thing and he's doing other things, and a lot of these things are controversial and they're not getting reported as controversial. However, I don't think that's the conversation we're currently having.
Yeah.
The conversation that I think what I think I'm trying to tell you is the numbers do not give weight to the argument. I'm just saying that there's also a lot of people who are reasonable and thoughtful, like I am, who are coming to very different conclusions about things than what you're saying, using objective logical reasoning.
Let's discuss one.
Okay. Yeah.
No. You think we're coming from two different places and we're starting from two different premises, and so you're concerned about
No, I'm
the
just what I'm concerned about is what I keep hearing is, and this I don't think this is what you mean to do, but this is what's coming across, at least to me, is that there's an automatic dismissal of controversy and the ways people think because they're not being considered in a logical or critical thinking point of view. And my argument is that that doesn't matter. It's how we get to a good argument, but that doesn't matter because where you start from, your worldview, is how you can get there, and reasonable people can get to completely different places. So I don't think that it's fair or helpful to automatically critique things because they're not coming from a critical thinking point of view.
It's critical thinking is not the input, and it's not the starting place. It's sort of it's the scale.
But that's what I'm saying is it's you're using a file when you need a hammer. It's not like what I'm saying is, or maybe that's not the right word. You're talking about the pipeline. You're not talking about the water that's going through it. Right?
Yeah. So maybe an example would be illustrative, because what I'm starting to do is I'm just trying to search my mind for these, different analogies, files and hammers and weights and scale. And so maybe an example would be illustrative. And maybe that would illustrate the point. Maybe there is a premise.
Okay, so let's try going back to my original premise. Is I'm looking at these things, right? And what I'm saying is I'm frustrated because Biden's saying, "Hey, peace and unity," but then he's doing all these controversial things that are not unifying, and I'm frustrated.
Controversial.
They're controversial, and they're objectively controversial because people, particularly from the conservative side, disagree with these. There's no debate on them. They're just being shoved out there, and they're controversial because people are disagreeing with them. And now this is where I think we started to diverge in our conversation, was that you said what I heard you say is they shouldn't be controversial if you apply logic and critical thinking to them.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
The executive orders.
No, I understand that. But maybe, again, it would be illustrative.
Okay.
If we were talking about a specific order, and then that way.
So let's start with, we'll read through them here in a minute, but for example, the reinstating of transgenders joining the military or getting the surgery as part of their GI Bill. I don't think that's the right bill, but what have you, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that is a controversial executive order?
Probably it shouldn't be, but yeah.
Why shouldn't it be?
I don't. You've mentioned frequently, you can swing your arms around as much as you like until they hit someone else. This doesn't hit anybody else.
I mean, I would argue that it does, because you are inserting people who arguably have some either mental condition or have some believe one thing about their genetics that may or may not be true. Right.
And how much evidence is there that they may have, that transgender people have something mentally wrong with them?
Body dysphoria. I mean, there's a reality between what you genetically have and what you think you genetically have. So, I mean, we can have that argument too. It's a much larger one. But my point is this is controversial because people can come to a very logical conclusion using critical thinking and come to a different thing.
That seems more prejudicial, I think, is the
How is it
legal
prejudicial? I'm not making a moral statement about it. I'm making a statement about what people believe. You think going through certain logical and critical thinking steps that that is a reasonable thing to come through. I think coming from a different perspective with equally logical and critical thinking steps, that's not a reasonable thing. I don't think that the reality matches the mental map.
What is the American Medical
Association? The mental map
Association
matches reality.
So in this case, I don't know all the information. So unfortunately, I have to rely on experts, the smartest people we have with the largest saturation in the subject. So I would lean on the American Medical Association. I'm not hearing anything from them. So I'm thinking we're good.
Well, I mean, the American Medical Association, up until like I think 10 or 15 years ago, considered body dysmorphia to be a mental illness, and it only recently changed within the last 10 or 15 years based off of some arguably not very good studies.
It sounds like we got our answer.
No, what I'm saying is I'm saying that's a larger issue, and the studies that it's based off of were not well done. So I mean, we don't have
but they were good enough for the AMA.
Yeah, because the AMA,
that's the best we got to go on.
But I'm saying it's not. I mean, you can trust you can go with expertism if you want, but there are other people who have looked at it who are equally qualified who are saying no, the AMA is wrong.
Are they equally as qualified?
Why wouldn't they be? Most of them are members of the AMA, as I understand.
But so then the majority of the AMA believes that it's
the official position of the AMA, but science is constantly changing. I'm saying is
that's where it's at now.
I'm saying expertism is not necessarily always the answer.
What else do we have? What else do we have in a situation where we don't know? Which you mentioned mental illness. You're not a mental illness professional. I'm not a mental illness.
No, but I can make judgments based off the facts in front of me.
Okay.
Regardless.
But people that are more saturated.
We're now moving into it. I think we're now moving into a different argument. So my main point is that you and I have come to different conclusions. Yes. I have a fact pattern. You have a fact pattern. I have seen, we can see both of them, and we can move up. I'm still it's still a controversial thing. You can dismiss it as, if you want to, you can dismiss this as not critical thinking, but I don't think that that's fair or in good faith.
Where's the good faith in the opposing, the AMA on this?
Because I can see. They could be right. It's not a mental illness. My problem with that argument is that genetically speaking, they are male. Now they can have, this is something Yali and I talked about. You can have different expressions of masculinity, but that doesn't change the fact that you are male, that you have a Y chromosome.
Yeah, and gender.
And so if you are ignoring that, there is a mental illness, or at least a mental disconnect there.
And gender is different than biology. Was another thing that y'all.
Yeah, it's another thing, but it's not. I'm trying to keep us back onto the. I want to try to keep us onto the point of this is a controversial executive order. Moving slightly back, if I may.
Yeah.
So if it's a mental order, if we can we don't have to agree on that premise, but if we just buy the premise for the moment, for the sake of argument, if it is a mental order, we generally don't allow military service to happen for things that are much less significant than that. Right? There's a whole slew of mental orders that we don't allow people to join the military for. So by allowing this, then all of a sudden we have a disagreement about it. It is controversial. And it is controversial.
If it was a mental disorder, it would be controversial.
Yes, totally. And there's still arguments that it is a mental disorder.
Sure, and there's still arguments that there's a lot of arguments.
There's a lot of arguments, but I'm saying there's controversy here, and to say it's not controversial is not true. Or you're just dismissing how other people who don't agree with you think.
I'm not just if it was going against, if the AMA and all the brightest people with the highest saturation in a field that I'm not an expert in said that that's the case, I would feel so. I'm not qualified to make that call. And if someone that is qualified to make that call is making that call, even if I disagreed with it, in this case I don't, but even if I did disagree with it, I would go with that information. For example, the party that I am most affiliated with, they chose Joe Biden, who was probably maybe my last choice, but they went with him for the reasons that they went with him, and we got the presidency. I'm happy that we have that. I would much rather have Bernie, but it went against me, but I will take it because it worked. And this, I think, is another situation. A political analogy was a poor choice, but hopefully at least you see what I'm saying. Things have gone against me, and I haven't. I have gone with the experts because I don't. Man, I'm trying to think of a situation where I've gone against it, experts, and been right. And I can't, nothing's jumping to mind, but I understand not liking, it.
So if let's just say, for the sake of argument,
Yeah,
for this, because I believe it's true and I don't think, and you probably won't. So let's say that there's like the jury's not out yet, right? On a given thing. So like there's maybe there's slightly more experts who lean one way than another, right? But there's still like a large bulk majority who don't think that way. So are you allowed to disagree with the experts at that point, or do you just follow the majority? I'm not trying to lead you into anything. It's more of a legitimate.
No.
It's more of a question.
Good faith, goodwill. Assume goodwill. No, I can disagree for sure. One of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about is how I am very, I would say, surprised. I don't think climate change is quite to the level of an issue that it's not as high on my personal political value system as it is for Biden. Not close. Mm-hmm. But he's doing it. I think multiple of those executive orders,
a lot of them are
climate based. So that is going against my personal political feelings.
Okay. But so would you feel like that's a controversial executive order then?
I would not call it a controversial executive order. I think a lot of people like it. I think it is a bit of a zeitgeist kind of vibe to it, and generally I do agree with it. Is it? I mean, it's definitely in his top 3, maybe top 2, and that isn't where it is for me, but that is where it is for the current top of those positions.
So maybe we're getting having different definitions of controversial then. Like, so I mean, I feel like you can agree with a thing but acknowledge that it's a controversial decision. Like, let's look at a sports analogy, right? Some guy will say football team gets
make it Kansas City. You want
Kansas City. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I love watching.
It's like one of the things, people will not like me for this, but I enjoyed watching the Patriots when Tom Brady and
why would people not like you for that?
Because the Patriots always won, and here's the thing: is they played good football, right? It was fun to watch them play because they played good football. Now the problem is as they got longer, like farther and farther into it, and people started figuring out how they were playing good football, they started doing outside stuff, which was not cool. But they still played good football. Like Tom Brady lives, eats, and breathes football. He should have retired 2 years ago, but he lives, eats, and breathes it.
Going to the Super Bowl too.
He is, and I fully expect to beat him Saturday.
I love it.
Mahomes is pissed that we lost 2 years ago to them in what was the real Super Bowl that year. None of this what did they play the Ravens after that? No one cares. The the Patriots Chiefs game was the good game. Was like the real Super Bowl, and we lost. It was very frustrating. Mahomes' first year too.
But quick tangent. We will do. I will take a TB12, and you can take Mahomes and the boys. We'll put a bottle of whiskey on it.
Bottle of whiskey on it. I could probably do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like betting because in the moment I bet for something, the universe just shifts everything, so I lose. Like I have a terrible track record at making wagers. It's absolutely frustrating.
Well, we can do a handshake. We can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I like making meaningless, insignificant, not financially insignificant bets.
Yeah.
I'm not a gambler.
Yeah.
But it makes it fun. It makes it fun. So
what were you? Oh, so controversy.
Kansas City at sports analogy.
Kansas City. So Kansas City. So there was a play last week where it really probably should have been a helmet-to-helmet contact that got called, where it was, and I think they lost. I think I'm trying to remember who we were playing now, not the Packers, but the Bills. Like guy basically just straight helmet-to-helmet contact, but it was incidental, and they lost the ball, and the refs weren't in a position where they could really see it. Like the replays, you could see it, but it was one of those. I think it was like calling back a touchdown or something. It was one of those plays that you can't review, so they couldn't call a foul on it. So, and like every football game has a controversial play like that, right?
Sure.
So it went my way. It definitely kept the Bills from scoring, and like that part I liked. But I'm going to admit it was a controversial play. Like I can easily admit that's a controversial play.
Yeah, and so for me, the transgender troops are not that close to the line as helmet-to-helmet contact in the NFL. So
I don't think it's necessarily important to look at the degrees of things so much as whether a thing is in and of itself controversial, right? And I think maybe it might be helpful in this case to say controversial is when people of good faith who have thought through things disagree on a thing.
Okay.
Right. So with the transgender in the military, like it's obviously not a big deal to you. At the end of the day, it doesn't really affect my life other than like general policy. Like I may or may not agree with it.
Yeah.
But like I'm not in the military. I believe I'm aged out from even like the army at this point. So, or if I'm not, I'm close. Like it's unlikely this will ever really truly affect my life unless we're like go to like absolute total war somewhere. God forbid.
God forbid.
Yeah.
I'll be ready, but God forbid.
I mean, yeah, I can get myself there, but no one wants that.
With your MMA P90X.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to get me. Well, but that'll get me in shape. I don't think that would get me ready to fight. I would have to honestly redo my mentality.
Honestly, you'd probably be the first person I'd call because I would need to learn how to be better with guns.
Okay.
Quick.
Well, if that's the case, like I understand the principle, but I'd be calling my friend Jeffrey Klein, who just really, really does. We just moved back to Kansas and learn how to shoot again. That's not true. I know how to shoot. I'm actually pretty good with a long rifle.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not as good as I'd want to be, but I'm okay with it. Grandpa Ron taught me well.
Grandpa Ron.
Handguns, though. Handguns are bullshit.
Handguns are bullshit.
Handguns are bullshit.
These are thoughts I've never even heard before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're fun to shoot, but as far as like accuracy and like lethality, they're a bunch of malarkey. They're easy to carry around. They are, yeah. Like they're just, yeah. It's the same. Yeah. Like I wouldn't even use it close quarters, but that's just because Dan Crenshaw said I would never use a handgun in close quarters. So like, okay, well, I believe what you said because you are a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, I like. I don't agree with him on everything, but I like Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah. I mean, he's fun.
really-
Even if you don't
the
agree with his
special
policy,
forces
he's
people.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and he's fun too.
Yeah. I showed you that Texas voting commercial,
did.
right? It was the most it was not a well done commercial, but it was over the top and like the best, like, oh my
Oh, yeah.
gosh, way.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even well acted.
No, but that's all part of it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all part of that's great.
It was just someone gave him $1 million and they're like, what's the most fun we could have with this? Yeah.
No, it was good. It was
So
fun.
anyway, controversy.
Sure. Yeah. I see it. I see the word as sort of like people can get fired up about not much.
I mean, that's fair, but I mean, I guess it's what I think I want from you, and this is the problem: is I'm wanting something.
Okay.
Sorry, I guess I'm playing with this. My aunt recently sent me a bunch of letter openers, and this was my favorite one. So it looks like I have a knife, but it's not.
Yeah, it
It's
totally
just
looks
a very heavy duty paper opener, which probably could be considered a dull knife.
Yeah, that looks
It is
legit.
so much fun to play with.
Serious.
Except for
It's got a Game of Thrones sort of vibe.
Yeah, except for it's weighted very poorly. I think it's like, yeah, it's still too heavy there.
What a piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's not a piece of garbage. It's just
I'm joking.
it's
I've
just
never
it's not weighted
I've never
well.
done that before.
It's very grippable though.
So what is it you were
what I
looking for?
want from you, I guess what I'm wanting from you, and it's like I said, it's unfair in a conversation to want something from someone, is the acknowledgement that these are controversial, or at least not the easy dismissal, the blasé dismissal that people can disagree with these, and like on good faith, with good faith.
Right. Okay. For the sake of this conversation, that is, I will use the word controversial for this because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. What would
not
be
how I would
maybe there's a better word. What word would you use?
I don't want to think of one right off the time, and
Okay.
I right off the top of my head, and I don't mind giving you what you want.
Accepting the premise for the purpose of the conversation.
Yeah. I'm happy to align.
So yeah, I've actually for this one, because I realized I haven't been doing it, is I pulled up my spreadsheet that has all of the how to have impossible conversation goals on it, because I'm not supposed to stray out of chapter 1 right now, which means that really what I should be doing, and I'm not, is that I should be figuring out what my goals for engaging you in conversation are. Being partners with you, not adversaries, which I'm doing a very poor job of today.
Oh, we got there.
We got there, but I did not extreme ownership dictates that I say it was completely my, well, no, not completely my fault, but I am the one in control of it. Rapport, develop and maintain a good connection. I think we did okay. I think we usually do okay with that, because we back off when we need to. Listen more, and talk less, which I've not been doing a good job of. Jeremy, how dare you? Shoot the messenger, which means don't deliver your truth. Done a piss poor job of that. Yeah. Intentions, assume people have better intentions than you think. I think we're pretty good at that.
That's probably our strength.
Yeah.
Our strength.
Yeah. And then walk away. Don't push your conversation partner beyond their comfort zone, which I think is,
we're terrible at this.
Yes, we are terrible at this. And I think, again, it's because, like I said, it's because I want something from you in this, and that's not the way to go about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but yeah, no, I'm sure. Yes, controversial. Helmet to helmet. That's too much. Transgender. Sure. Yeah. Controversial.
So it's like some people are very happy that this is that's going, and good for them. Like, they're welcome to their opinion, but I disagree with it. And I think one of my meta points, which was maybe not helpful for trying to go through his executive orders, was I'm frustrated that a lot of media outlets are not attacking Biden the same way they attacked Trump. I mean, I was expecting it, but it doesn't mean I'm not dissatisfied with it. And I'm equally dissatisfied with calls for unity and then going and doing a bunch of stuff that a lot of people will not like assuming they're good faith. And while I assume they're good faith because I agree with it, but
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when we're evenly split as the electorate seems to be, it's almost like we are waiting for folks to step and then sliding a mine underneath them. We're looking to start fights.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the thing I want, and maybe this is what the blasé sort of just a de-escalation. I am just so interested in a boring 4 years. And if anybody can deliver on a boring 4 years, it's Joe Biden. And so he is just, and God bless him. I'm looking forward to it, but I think there is very little controversy, but I will say for this.
Yeah. And see, I think that's part of the problem that's part of what I'm trying to express is that I don't think that Biden I think he's capable of delivering a boring 4 years. I don't think he will, based off of like the first week that I'm seeing. Like, I think most conservatives would love a de-escalation as well.
Do you think?
Go ahead. Oh, you froze.
Do you?
Sorry, say that all again. You froze.
It very much seems like.
Did I freeze?
Sorry,
now?
making a weird face, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're back. I think you're
okay.
You're
go ahead
and
a little bit. Ask your question.
Kind of choppy, but if you can hear me, I'll keep going. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Good.
you. Yep.
So from my zeitgeist, particularly after January 6th, it definitely seems like conservatives want an escalation. They're looking for an escalation. The country, I think, by voting in Biden, wants a de-escalation. And I think that he is being very anti-Trump in his executive orders, but I think that is all towards the majority of the country. Now, yes, there's a lot of people that will find it controversial, but the belief is that they're looking for a fight. They're looking for an escalation. And that is not really, it's definitely not good for the country. And it's definitely not good for the political discourse. And I don't know how, it's the kid who cried wolf. If you're always ready to fight, you start to question how they're, choosing their fights.
Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, I guess this is one of those things where this is the conversation, and it is the point of friendly argument. The conservative zeitgeist, or the conservative problem with like wanting de-escalation is we do want to de-escalate. We don't want to fight. You're our countrymen, but it doesn't feel like the things that are being done by the Democratic Party or by liberals in general have anything to do with the founding principles of the country. And it feels like we're getting more and more away from that, and we're getting more and more into areas where it's like this, like areas and ways of thought that are not true and have never been true about our country. Right? So like I think maybe a quick example of this, and then I'll let you say what you want to say, is like the difference between what's our history. Is it the 1619 project, or is it the 1776 reform bill or project or whatever they called it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, is America founded on racism and slavery, or is America a place that has founding ideals that we haven't always lived up to, but we try to?
Yeah. So here's what I think, if I'm being really honest, here's what I think is actually going on. I think they're looking over 200 years of history, and I think everybody's cherry picking what supports their argument. And I think what needs to happen, well, I guess the question I would pose is, do we need to be closer to those founding principles, or do we need to evolve?
Well, I mean, and I guess this is kind of the question we're asking ourselves as a country and as a people, because
We got there.
yeah, because as a conservative, I would say no. Like our founding principles are good. Like the meta founding principles are good, and people of more barbaric times lived as barbarians. And as we have gotten more and more civilized, we have lived closer and closer to our founding ideals because we are more and more capable of doing that, both as a culture or as a society and as a people. I guess that's a distinction without a difference.
Yeah,
But,
this
but as like as a society, we've gotten closer and closer to it as we're like, oh, if we're going to believe X, then we have to do Y. Like we have to do A, B, and C in order for us to actually legitimately believe X, right? And so it's like people who were not of that time, who are still a part of the changing to get there, are not going to live up to where we are because we're standing on their shoulders.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the founding principles are good. I think that there's multiple ways to interpret them. And I think there are some quick wins out there to get us closer to those ideals. And I think, excuse me, I think there's some quick wins out there to get us closer to our ideals. And I feel like we're starting to take those. And I think some of the executive orders are those, even if they're not fully in line with my particular political value system. And I think that we should evolve.
So I guess maybe just so I understand you, are you saying that that our meta principles need to evolve, or that we need to evolve into the principle? I guess who control, where's the golden bean? Is it in the principles, or is it in us to create the principles?
Here's a good example,
Okay.
or at least I think it's a good example. I was watching a documentary about a youth who was convicted of murder, and he went before this full panel, and they full panel of judges to see if he was wrongfully convicted. And one of them's there was two sides, of course, and one side was, there's no precedent for this, which is a big precedent, is important in the legal system. My view of leadership is that you have to think past that. You have to be forward thinking. You have to be looking out of the windshield of the car, not the rear view. Precedent, in my view, is rear view. So you need to think going forward, make precedent. Because this set of circumstances, is there a difference between those old set of circumstances? If there is, and there's enough room for new precedent, make that new precedent. And if there isn't, and it's very similar circumstances, then that's the debate. You see what I mean? Like how different are the, if you're going to use precedent as an argument, so you can either set new precedent or go by old precedent. Those are your two ways.
Okay.
And the judgment is if you see the situations as similar. If it's similar to the one in the precedent, and that you can have, it can be controversial, that you can have different opinions on, right? To folks practicing logic and critical thinking can come in two different directions on that. I do think that it is the job of our leaders, our elected leaders, to be looking forward. I think we are looking more and more different than the founding fathers. We're a much more diverse country. We're a much more sophisticated democracy. It's a more sophisticated economy. And so these ideals that I do love, this is what I studied in college. It's why I did. I love it. And get all the warm and fuzzies when I go to the Smithsonian in DC. Like I'm that guy. But we need to be leaders. In my view of leadership, we need to be looking more forward and applying those fundamental principles to today, not vice versa, because the situations are they're different, and they're getting more different every day.
So I guess maybe let me make sure I understand what you're saying before I ask my question, because that is the point of the show. So if I understand what you're saying, you have an issue with applying the founding principles to today because they were made by people who are not as societally complex as we are.
Different.
I'm sorry.
They're different.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like the main difference I heard was that we have more diversity. We have more diversity of thought. We have more diversity of worldview. We have more diversity of I think this is irrelevant, but we have more diversity of skin color. Not as irrelevant. We have more cultural diversity. And so we are a more complex society because we have more inputs being put into it.
That's one aspect of it, but yeah.
But okay, so applying the founding principles to today is not necessarily as helpful because they are not. I don't think you wouldn't think that they're relevant to today so much as they are not equally as socially complex as today.
Yeah, and even scarier still. Warren Buffett, I don't know if he got it from somebody else, but it's not the bad ideas I worry about, it's the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can over apply a good idea. As good of an idea as capitalism is, and it is a good idea in my view, mm-hmm. You can over apply it. And sadly, frighteningly, it is easier to over apply good ideas than it is to over apply bad ideas, because the bad ideas they just can't hold as much weight. But a good idea, you can really overdo it. And so that's when I talk about the sophistication, I'm talking about we're talking these millimeter shifts, 2 millimeter shift. I think that's a Tony Robbins thing. I'm trying to cite my sources here, but those are the sorts of things that we're dealing with now. And unfortunately, I think when we try to apply the founding principles, sometimes they're a little blunt of an instrument, taking a hammer to a Swiss timepiece, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like, just need a little fine tuning. And that's where we're at. That's the American democracy today, particularly in such a world leadership position as we're in. Mm-hmm. Now we have way more complex equations to deal with, thousands of factors, literally. And that's a much more, little, and those little tweaks here and there are what we probably should be doing. But I also think they're the least satisfying for the electorate. We don't like the little tweaks. We want big change. We want to see these big, huge things. And oh, by the way, everything is moving faster. So now we kind of think, well, I just got a new car for the first time in 9 years. It's like I bought a spaceship. Like it's so different than what I had before in my little Prius. And so I mean, it's very easy to think, well, why can't everything be as cool as my new spaceship? And so the electorate is thinking that way. Why? I mean, I get everything I want on demand. I get everything catered to me by an algorithm, except this one thing where it's just like boop, 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 tiny little changes. And I don't think it's very satisfying. And I understand that, but I think it doesn't make those tiny changes the wrong move.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I have a comment and a question.
Yeah. I'm way caffeinated tonight.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay.
We just haven't talked in a while. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe. That's weird.
Yeah, no, we just haven't gotten out of our system. So my comment is I think there's a disagreement on what's going on today in our society as being whether I don't think that they're little tweaks. I think they're massive shifts. I think they've been a long time coming, but I think there are massive fundamental shifts that are happening. So I would agree with your idea in principle. I just don't think that that's the reality.
Yeah, I would say that what we should be doing and have been doing for a long time before Donald Trump,
I would say Barack
now
Obama.
with these executive orders, I think that was when we really saw big moves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the executive orders. This is shooting the messenger, so I am breaking my rules. But the major use of executive orders really started with Obama when after he lost the Senate, and I think that's probably a different podcast because I think that there's like even Trump using them. I think was a bad idea, and I think that our Congress needs to be the deciding force in things. But that will way distract us.
Yeah.
So my question.
I don't see big shifts. I don't equate big shifts and equals executive orders in my view.
No, I think it's a symptom of big shifts. It's culturally big shifts. It's the executive orders are not necessarily big shifts because government law tends to be downstream of culture, or politics tends to be downstream of culture, which I think is downstream of spirituality. But that's a different conversation. So I also am not
not enough whiskey for Jesus drunk.
Yeah, I'm not quite. Jesus drunk would be different. But no, executive orders are not the big shift. I'm just saying we're having big shifts. I agree with what you were saying with tweaking things to more fit society and people not being satisfied with tweaks. But I think our issue is a little bit bigger than that, in that I don't think we're tweaking things. I think we're massively shifting things. And I think we're having big disagreements on where to shift.
Yeah.
Right. Or basically, and I think, and this is part of that is what we're talking about right now. With the where do our principle, what has priority, the founding, the principles or us? So my question to you is do you think that there are universal principles, like principles that apply to things outside of time? And I'll say, for the sake of argument, because the easy answer is like math and scientific principles. Like we know that within a certain boundaries, like this will be true. Like 2 + 2 will equal 4 given normal parameters.
Yeah. I hear you on that, and yes, the first ones that come to my mind as universal principles are the ones Jocko Willink put forth in his book Extreme Ownership. Decentralized command, cover and move, take the high ground, like those, and there's like 4 of them. So like it's not there are some universal principles, but in some cases you can go, there's even a dichotomy with those as well.
Granted.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think, and this is maybe where we're have the zeitgeist are starting to disagree, is that I think that the founding principles were universal principles, and broad brush speaking, like we should be arguing which one of those principles is what's guiding us. And I don't think that we as a country are necessarily agreeing. Maybe that's not true. I think the high grounds of each side are not agreeing on that. I think Joe Schmo, like you and I, would probably agree on most of the founding principles, but I don't think that is necessarily what is getting argued about within the greater culture.
Sure.
Or at least within the easy culture.
Here's a question. Are there contradictions in the founding principles?
I guess we need to find exactly what they are to be completely on that, but I do have an example.
Sure. Or you're asking me if
I'm asking you for an example.
Oh, yeah.
I assume if you ask the question, you have something in mind.
I didn't particularly, but
okay.
I know the gist of some of them and like just basically like celebration of the individual and celebration of the republic. You know what I mean? Like those are at odds, almost diametrically opposed. So there's going to be this dance, this balance between that. the whole time
Mhm.
our country exists. And I think that's a good dance to do, because I do think that those are both very valuable, but I do think that then in a lot of ways they're opposed.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there is there is dichotomy in that, but that doesn't, I guess, in my mind, that doesn't take away from their universality. Or at least I don't see that
Sure.
the dichotomy, the problems with figuring out where the dichotomy is in any given moment is really what our issue is. I think our issue is that we're getting away from even like the founding principles as being our cultural guiding light.
To specify, a
Mhm.
dichotomy would be within. So if we're
Granted.
talking about individuality as a principle,
Hmm.
the dichotomy, so like the value of the republic and the value of the individual would be opposed, not a dichotomy.
Well, most I maybe we're having
Maybe it's a
differences, and
difference
maybe
about it.
it's a difference of thinking about it, because I think that every dichotomy is like every dichotomy is a natural opposition to each other, but it's it's like it's the dichotomy of a bridge, right? Like the bridge has to push or an arch maybe would be the better thing. The arch has to push against itself or it will collapse. Like all of the
Yeah.
pressure goes into the keystone or it falls apart, right? So where that keystone is in any given point would be the dichotomy, right? It is two opposing forces, but the right place for those opposing forces to meet is
Yeah.
is where the dichotomy lies.
Okay. That's
So
it's a
yeah,
little
so
different
in
than.
your example, like individualism versus like what I'll call love of country, right? Like within I would argue that within the American spirit there is the you have to go out and try and do your best and live the adventure that is that is America. But in your doing so, you will also have a duty to your countrymen to, help them where you can. Like if you are able to help, you are expected to help, right? But even then I would argue that's an argument from a particular point in the dichotomy, because it's still an individualistic responsibility versus a corporate responsibility. So that's maybe not the best example.
I liked the American adventure part. That was
Mhm.
you should. That was
Yeah,
like art.
The American promise is not a promise of success; it's a promise of adventure, and this is a Shapiroism. Like like you're not guaranteed anything, but you're guaranteed that you can at least try.
Sure. Yeah. I hope someday that's true.
I would argue that it is, but and our problem is that
For
we don't.
everybody.
Yeah, I would argue very strenuously that it is available to everyone. But that's another podcast.
That might be.
Yeah. Remind me, I have a book recommendation for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've I've picked up the Andrew habit of new
Being
books.
a prolific starter of book and a terrible at finisher of them.
The new year. The new
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. I hope one day to just have a plethora of time where I can just sit in a plethora of time and a lack of physical energy, so that I can, but a great breadth of mental energy, so that I can
Oh,
just be like, I'm reading today.
I can't that I'm definitely going back to school in retirement. Like I'm definitely
Oh,
going for other degrees in my retirement.
yeah. The thing that I thought was Andrew Kansas story. So one of the I used to mow when I was like a teenager, I would mow. And if you can get into mowing as a teenager, particularly because my dad, and I don't know why he did this, but he paid for our gas. So I had no overhead whatsoever. It was great. I like I would not do that to my children because it did not teach me realistic business practices, but my dad's also a physician, and then I love him very, very much, but he is not necessarily what I would call a business person. He's very intelligent and probably and very likely smarter than I am, but that is not his forte. Uh Generosity is, and that's probably where that came from. Um Anywho, so I was mowing, and one of the lawns I mowed for, this guy had bought a house in our neighborhood solely so he could go to Washburn. He had no or Washburn Law. He had no plans on practicing for more than 2 years. He just had made like a crap ton of money. He's like, you know what? I want a law degree. And so he just went back to law. Like he and his wife bought a house in a completely different like part of the state so he could go to law school for 3 years. And then I think they moved back to Wichita and he practiced for like 2 and then retired again. And I was like, that's amazing.
That makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah.
That makes all the sense in the world to me.
He also had the best study group because he had a significant other who was willing to make snacks while they were studying, and he had a pool. So he got all the like the high powered people in his study group because
Nice.
because it was like, well, we could go study here and then get in the pool later, or we can not do that. So
Pool's gonna win every time. That's
Pool wins every time.
That's just science.
Yep.
That's just science.
This whiskey is really good, Jeremy. I'm very thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's Oshishi. Oshishi. It is nope, not that one. Not that guy. It is the Ohishi.
Ohishi.
The only problem is sometimes they don't really. I can never tell if it's the name of the company. Like even when it's like Irish whiskey or Scotch whiskey, it's like I don't know if this is the name of the company or if this is the name of the actual whiskey.
The maker, the model.
Yeah.
Well, if we can find a bottle, that can be our
thing.
That can be our bet.
My whiskey budget has significantly decreased since getting married, since I, now am the breadwinner. So yeah. So
let's hope you win. And I think you're favored. Yeah, I think Kansas City.
Believe I am.
Yeah,
I would like to think so. We'll figure out what the official bet is later.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Anywho, so we are, I think, potentially an hour. I really wish I knew how this better because it'd be nice to see how
just
long
under
I think
under an hour. I think
just under an hour. Okay, so we should
probably 15 minutes it.
We probably should 15 minutes it. Do you want to go through any of these? Because I think do you want me to just run through them and be like, I think that's controversial? Okay,
and we can say a 1-sentence comment on it.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, COVID-19. This is on abcnews.go.com/politics/ Biden's executive orders notable actions /story id equals 755000311. If we ever, Sven may or may not put that in a link below. COVID-19 response. Executive order on protecting federal workforce and require mask wearing. Requires mask, physical distancing, and other health measures on federal property. Don't care one way or the other. Only problem with it is that Biden broke this within 2 hours of signing it, which annoys me.
Why not do it? That's my take on that.
Why not do what?
Why not have this executive? Why not?
Oh yeah, I don't care about it. It's just more of there's a bunch of meta stuff wrapped up in it, but it's also if you're going to sign an executive order, you need to obey your executive order. So I'm just
it's literally what I see in my head is this a roll of paper towels.
Mm-hmm.
And it barely does, it doesn't move, it's not saying anything, and just you're just mad. He's the equivalent of paper towels, and people are finding a way to get upset with him.
Or he's not, and you just want to believe that he is.
That's how I saw him during the primaries. So I'm not saying it's accurate. I'm saying it's a funny image.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Executive order on organizing and mobilizing the United States government to provide a unified and effective response to combat COVID-19, to provide the United States leadership on the global health and security. Establishes the position of a COVID-19 response coordinator within the executive office. Don't have a problem with it on its face, though I think a lot of the stuff behind it is kind of malarkey, since I think they're we didn't have a plan. CDC said there was a plan. They're we want to get up to 1 million a day. We were already at 950,000 a day. So it's don't care about it on its face, but it's like, why are you like it was unnecessary aside from as a jab.
And then my response would be, was it unnecessary? But
I mean, rejoining the World Health Organization, Biden sends a letter to United States Secretary General Antonio Guterres revoking United States' previous intention to withdraw from WHO amid the pandemic. I think that that's a mistake because, as far as I can tell, the Chinese are basically in control of WHO, and we're paying for it. I don't see any reason for us to be a part of it. I don't think it was an effective organization to begin with. Same problem with the UN.
yeah, think it's good. Could be better. Glad we're a part of it. Makes all the sense in the world.
Sure, controversial.
Do you want to be a leader or not? Do you want to be a leader?
I want to be a leader. We don't need to be a part of the WHO to be a leader. It's not an organization we control. If we controlled the WHO, great. We don't. We can be a leader without being a part of these international organizations.
You gotta be relevant.
We are relevant. None of the rest of them are relevant. We're the only relevant one.
Is that really the case? Is that really the story?
Most medical innovation, like 90% of it, comes from the United States.
And is that all of medicine? Is innovation?
It's like the researching disease. Yeah. What the World Health Organization is responsible for is mostly coming from us, and we're mostly paying for it. We don't need to be a part of it. They can join us. Executive order on promoting COVID-19 safety in domestic and international travel requires masks in certain form of domestic travel, including planes, trains, ferries, intercity buses. It requires those coming to the U.S. from foreign country to provide proof of a recent negative COVID-19 test before arrival to the extent feasible. Don't know if it's necessary. Don't necessarily have a problem with it.
2 thumbs up. Perfect 10 would look again. Can we go to one that's not a COVID? Because we got about 2 more minutes before we really should debrief.
COVID.
Which is his number one thing, and I think it should.
Well, and it was like, I think he was theming all of his executive orders for the first week, which is cute, but ensuring the equitable pandemic response and recovery. I think that one was absolutely disastrous. It should not, like, our COVID stuff should be based off of age and risk factor, not based off of race or perceived inequality.
What about actual inequality?
I mean, sure, but I mean, what does economic inequality have to do with risk factor?
It's been shown to be a risk factor.
But so I do not believe that from what I have seen, and not being an expert, granted, that the bigger risk factors are the older you are and the more unhealthy you are, unless you're a smoker, is the risk factor, right? So those should be our two priorities, right?
Well, don't ask me
okay, fine. Like, those are the people who should be seeing it. Like,
yeah,
a black 20-year-old should not be getting it in front of a Asian 75-year-old.
Sure.
Right.
I don't know if that is economic inequality. That sounds like you're pointing out age.
Yeah, but it's this specific one I have read a little bit, and it's mostly like, it's largely racial, and I think that that's dumb.
Well, I mean, if the inequality is real, which we've had an issue with racial inequality,
but like, what inequality are we talking about? Like, if the vectors of, if the things that make the disease deadly are age and morbidity, then that should be the two things. It's like, there's nothing to show that 2 equal specimens who have different melanin factors are going to get it differently.
Yeah, I thought it was based on economic inequality.
I don't believe so.
Oh,
I mean, it's social economic inequality, I believe, is like the thing, but it's not the stated thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're like, I have no problem. Like, so let's change the example. A rich 20-year-old should not be getting it in front of a poor 75-year-old. The 75-year-old should be getting it. Like that I can agree on. But I don't think that's what this executive order does.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm fine with the order, but just a sort of a tangent from the order about how other countries are. And I don't know the exact country, so I'm not gonna guess and be definitely wrong. But they're actually prioritizing vaccines amongst like working age folks. And the reason is because they're the ones that are moving about the most.
Okay, that's reasonable.
So I was like, I absolutely was like, give it should be, of course, to like the first responders, the nurses and all the healthcare folks, but then it should absolutely go into every nursing home first.
Well,
but this other country was like, oh no, the nursing home are pretty stationary. Let's get it to the people that are moving around because they're more likely to transmit it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's an interesting.
I think that, yes, I think that's good, except for and I don't know if this is true because this is just what somebody said, is I think you're still capable of giving it to people, even if you yourself are immune, which would be a mitigating factor in that. But I agree, assuming that is
like a typhoid Mary sort of thing.
Say what?
like a typhoid Mary sort of thing. Like
yeah,
it's on you, but you don't have
exactly. Yeah. So assuming that is not true, then yes, I agree with you. Like, let's give it to let's if you're 40 and up, let's give it to you. 40 to 65 and in good health, let's give it to you, and then reach herd immunity faster. But
okay. I just thought it was an interesting.
Yeah, I would, if that's what it did, if that's what the executive order did, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Pausing federal.
We're a little over an hour.
I have found a few that are not COVID related. If you would like me to go through, I'm just going to try to blitz through a bunch.
Yeah, let's blitz.
Pausing federal student loan payments. Directs acting education secretary to pause federal student loan payments and collections to keep the interest rate at 0%. A pause was issued the following day. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, other than the fact that we wouldn't need it if we did just open the economy back up.
Open economy or not, good thing.
Yeah, I think that's a different issue there.
I didn't bring it up.
No. Oh, no. I was saying, like, my problem with it's a different issue than just the executive order itself.
Oh, sure.
Here's one. Executive order on protecting federal workforce. Expands the protections for federal workings, including putting federal agencies on a path to require a $15 minimum wage for contractors. I think this is absolutely dumb.
Higher? I agree.
No, it is one of the few economic principles that left, right, and center economists agree is terrible for the people it's trying to help. Minimum wage does not help people. It hurts people. There is loads and loads of economic evidence on this. It is a non-factor among experts, since we like experts, that this does not help. But it's a great thing politically because people think, oh, I'm going to get more money. And what it does is it decreases working hours and kills off businesses.
Yeah, I'll look into that further. But when I was in school, that was not the research that we saw.
Yeah, no, it does nothing. It hurts people. Sorry, this is one that was one I'm rather passionate about. Climate crisis. Executive order on protecting public health and environment, restoring science to tackle climate crisis. Places a temporary moratorium on oil and gas activity in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, revokes the Keystone XL pipeline permit, among other measures. I don't particularly have a problem with the National Wildlife Refuge part of it. I think we probably shouldn't have as much government land as we do. The Keystone pipeline, I think, is a very poor decision.
Yeah, a lot of oil in Canada and a lot of refineries in Texas. It's going to get there one way or another.
Oh, I hope so. It's what's keeping our gas prices low and us not dependent on foreign oil. Plus, like natural gas is taking over. Like the anti-fracking one that he has somewhere else is the one that's going to be more disastrous for us. But disastrous, yes. If you want to keep carbon emissions down, then you want to keep fracking, because fracking produces more natural gas, which is lower than coal and is lower than fossil fuels.
Yeah, unless things run on natural gas. You need more things that run on natural gas.
Mm.
But yeah, I just the hyperbole and
It's a completely partisan move that
yeah,
has no
the
that is
Keystone
not going
Pipeline
to
is
help
a
anything but make some people who are very climate scared happy. And even then, it's like it's going to do the opposite of what they want.
yeah, net, I think it's fine, but I do think that it wouldn't be in my first set of executive orders. The Keystone Pipeline, I think, has become too much of a thing. And it doesn't change the fact like that oil is going to get there. It's going to travel that stretch of the world one way or the other.
Yeah, maybe in 10 years later than it would have otherwise.
Well, yeah, and so there's other things that need to be, now they're going to drive it in trucks,
Which requires more
Canada,
gas
Texas.
to use.
Yeah, and so like this is the pipeline. It might not be. It's in the conversation of a good way to move that stuff. Now, could you find something better? Possibly. It's not my area of expertise, but there is some realities there that where the refineries are and where oil is. So I think it's become too political of a thing. The Keystone Pipeline has become.
I mean, I can agree with that, but I also didn't have a problem with it to begin with. So
Yeah.
Acceptance of the Paris
Find
climate.
common ground, Andrew.
There we go. Acceptance of the Paris Climate Agreement. Probably should be a treaty, shouldn't be the presidential executive. It's also a nothing burger of an agreement that is it's a non-binding agreement. So like, what does it matter? Also, of the countries that joined it, we're the only one who actually made our marks if we would have joined it.
Welcome to being a leader, Andrew.
We weren't a part of it and we still beat it. The people who need to do it, China and India, they're not going to do it. It would hurt it would drastically hurt their economy. It doesn't matter. It's a stupid thing that makes a bunch of people who have a lot of money happy.
That you could say about capitalism.
Yeah, but under capitalism, you can be a person who makes a lot of money.
I don't know.
Like that, there's no whatever. I'm going with
it is plutocratic.
I'm going with the walk away principle. Number 7 of chapter 1. I am walking away. Executive order on tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad sets climate change as a key consideration for U.S. national security and foreign policy, establishes a national climate task force, pause new oil and natural gas leases on public lands or offshore waters to the extent of consistent with applicable law, sets the goal of achieving a carbon pollution-free electricity sector by 2035, aims to replace the federal government's fleet of autos with zero-emission vehicles, among other measures. I don't think that's it's a decent enough goal. I think it'll be used it seems like it's being used as more of a boogeyman to do more things than probably the government ought to, and the private sector could do a better job of it.
Do you assume any goodwill with any of these executive orders? I mean, the silence is.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to get to a yes. From Biden, no.
So it's from Biden.
From Biden, no, because he's a career politician who's like flipped and flopped a lot. Like I think he just moves with the political winds. I would, if Bernie was doing this, I would assume goodwill. I wouldn't like it, but I would assume goodwill, because I think Bernie is Bernie. Like what you see is what you're getting, whereas I don't see that coming from Biden. I wouldn't like it. I would still think it was dumb, but I would at least have assumed goodwill in it. Now, let me think of someone who would be, or AOC. I would assume goodwill from AOC. I wouldn't think that she would have personal goodwill towards me, but I would at least assume that she is she believes the Kool-Aid she's giving out, or she's drinking the Kool-Aid that she's giving out. Ask me that question again about her in 10 years, probably not the same answer. Um, but from like Biden or Pelosi or Schumer, no, I think it's a their power moves to. I think they're all political moves.
What would so zero? There's no way. There's no thing
I mean, there could.
those three could do that you would be like. I think they want healthcare for everybody. I think they want, you know what I mean? Like,
But see, my question in that is, why do you want healthcare for everyone? Because conservatives would like want,
like, what if it was actually goodwill, like actual altruism, like I mean, I think there's more to it than that. I think that it's a strategic advantage for us to have it against the countries that are absolutely coming for us. But what if it was just Nancy Pelosi was just like, I think this is a good thing. I think it's better that more Americans, all Americans, as long as I'm in office, they never have to worry about going to the doctor. They will get the good healthcare. Maybe not the best, maybe not the Rolls Royce.
If that was the conversation, then what I would expect if I thought there was goodwill, or what I would have expected to see if I thought there was goodwill coming from that, was, here's what we want, here's how we would like to get there, how can we make this work between us, because that's not your priority. But there's not. I don't see the will to compromise there.
You don't remember. So like exactly how you just described it is I think certainly me, but probably the liberal zeitgeist would say that's exactly what they tried to do with the Affordable Care Act. There was a ton of conservative input on that bill. Tons of meetings,
and it didn't pass.
Tons of changes.
And it didn't pass, and it was ran through with executive order.
Sorry, go again.
I said, and it didn't pass because not enough people agreed with it, because people of goodwill.
I mean, it's the law of the land. It passed.
Yeah, I believe it passed through. Wait, did it pass through legislation or did it pass through executive order? I thought it failed legislatively.
No, it got passed through legislatively, and then they tried to knock it down
again. Yeah. So okay, so I mean, I guess so people of goodwill came together and did a thing. I don't see what you're getting at.
Well, I'm just, I mean, so we sort of went a bit down the rabbit hole, but basically like, when Trump, his response in Syria, the one time where like I was like, wow, that was I forget exactly how it went down, but Syria definitely like was overstepping, and he shot missiles at him, and it was across the world. People were like, yes, that was that is the right response. I was like, that is the right response. From me, just from a logic and critical thinking, it didn't matter to me who did it. It was the right thing to do. So if I can, like, I could put aside the guy, I could, if for the right thing. And in that situation, that one, wish there was more of them situations, but like, it seems like the conservative zeitgeist is no matter what Bernie does, it's like, he eats a chicken sandwich and they're like, look at this chicken eating jerk over here. He's just eating chicken like a jerk. Like he didn't do anything. He ate a chicken sandwich. And it's just, and Biden same way. Like, and it's not, it seems more cult of personality based when it looks like that. I'm not saying that's how it is for you, but that is how the perception is, that it's just no matter what, it's already, like you said, not from Biden, like just from him. Nope. Can't accept it. Can't be good. And I'm just,
you asked if the question was, can it be good or not? The question was, do I assume goodwill in any of these?
Right, and then we sort of bounce down a couple,
Yeah.
we went a bit down the
Like
rabbit
I
hole.
think I fully expect that there could be good ideas coming from some of these things. I don't see many of them where I'm like, okay, yeah, it's either I'm neutral or it's like I think this is not going to be helpful, right? Like I don't think they're a good idea. And so when I was answering your question, about whether I assume
Yeah.
goodwill, I don't generally assume goodwill because what I see of a lot of these upper level politicians is not a I want to leave you alone. It's a I want to nanny you. And that's what most of these policies, particularly for the last 15, 20 years, have generally been. It's not, oh, you're American. Here's some boundaries. We're going to leave you alone. It's no, you're not allowed to do this now. No, you're not allowed to do this now. And that's where I have the problem with it. And like I don't assume goodwill because I don't assume that like this is like what's these things are what's really going on.
And when Trump was taking down things that we saw, you saw that as a good thing.
Yes.
And we saw that as eliminating protections. So where you see a nanny, we see those good boundaries. So it's
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree that like that's our difference in perspective, and that's part of the issue is I don't think we don't have a commonality of like where out of bounds is.
Yeah. I think we need. I really like your arch analogy, because there is pressure right there, and there needs to be pressure.
There needs to be pressure. The left needs the right, and the right needs the left.
Yeah, and that's why I like that analogy. But it's this it's acidic. You know what I mean? It's just it's that point of strength is now this point of weakness. And I think that I'm trying to figure out how would we fix it. And you know what? Actually, I think I already know the answer. Bernard Jones, senators of California. I think that's the way to do it.
I think that is the way to do it.
We go in there, we run for Senate, we win Senate
seats.
We
need to make sure that it's a special election, so we go in at the same time. Can you still hear me? I'm getting okay. So Brilliant. we need one of us to run in a special election. Yeah. And so the unfortunate thing is I don't know how we would decide who's the senator or senior and who's the junior senator.
Alpha.
If we wanted the same election.
About this.
Say what?
We go alphabetical. Bernard Jones.
Yeah, but you're older than me. I feel like you should at least have the I don't know that it actually matters, particularly since I'd be on the Republican side and you'd be on the Democrat side. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. We should come up with a fun way, whether it's like rock, paper, scissors or flipping a coin.
Well, how about we just how about we ignore it on Fridays, and on Mondays, Wednesdays, you get to be the senior senator from California, and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, I get to be the senior senator from California.
Brilliant.
And at the end of the day, we have to walk over our nameplates to the other person, so that way we just have a little bit that's like, so it's like Senator J. Andrew Bernard, and then it's like underneath it says like senior senator from California. So at the end of the day, I have to take it off and go over to your office and like hand you that, and then bring it back. That way it's a humbling technique too. So like every other day we'll be like, oh hey, remember that you're not always in power. So
yeah, I like it on a lot of different levels. No, that's perfect. It's great.
So yes. So I guess maybe the better answer to your question is I assume goodwill from you. I'm more skeptical of assuming goodwill from most politicians. Like I wouldn't, when you were mentioning like Trump doing all that stuff, I wouldn't say I think he was doing that from any real thing of goodwill. I think that he was doing that because it made people happy who made Trump happy.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the I don't argue with that.
Yeah.
But we've had a friendly argument.
We have had a friendly argument. I am on my last tiny sip of whiskey. So,
I probably less than that over here.
yep. All right. Well, Jeremy, we were friends before,
Friends during,
friends after.
friends after, buddy.
All right. I am.
Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
News stuff, all the tangents, some politics, booze,
More politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheer scenes.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.